Hi and welcome along to episode 4 of our podcast, Recruitment and Beyond. I'm Ewan Anderson.
I'm Natalie O'Hare.
And today we're going to tackle the challenging subject of flexible working. So Natalie, today we're talking about flexible working. So I guess let's start with maybe the law, the actual law. Let's work at where we are now, because I know that they changed the law at the end of 2022, didn't they? So where are we now with flexible working?
Flexible working has moved on as ever, and lots of further changes to come, which we will touch on.
Yeah.
In terms of flexible working, where we are now, it's a right. It's not a right. It's a request. Okay. Some people might think it's the right, but it's a request that would come from the employee with a length of service attached to that as well. Right. So an employer would have to take that request, do some kinds of process, and then give an outcome in terms of is it acceptable or is it not. And there are 7 legal reasons as to declining a flexible working request.
Oh, is it? So can they ask for that on day one? They can ask to have flexible working on day one? Not at the moment,
but
right, okay.
Pending changes would say that they can ask from day one.
Right.
There is no length of service. So for example, a position might be advertised and someone applies for it, and then they go through the induction, and then day 4 they say, I would quite like to work 3 days a week. Right. I would quite like to work 4 days a week. Okay. And then a business might be like, oh no, we've put this out as a full-time requirement, and where do we go from here? So. And there will be 2 requests per year now, rather than just having 1 at the moment, 2 requests in 12 months.
So the company needs to take that on board, and they need to give a valid reason why they are accepting it, or they're not, I suppose. Is that right? Yeah,
some kind of business reason, whether that's maybe a demand on customers, right, or there would be additional costings, etc. There are 7 prescribed reasons for declining. Okay.
So where are we now in terms of the actual making it work, I suppose? You know, I mean, flexible working came in obviously because of COVID, and now I think a lot of people almost misunderstand what flexible working means. It's not a case of working from home or not, is it? It's broader than that now, isn't it?
It's working from home, it's compressed hours, right, it's location, it's change of hours, it's number of days worked, it's a whole variety, shift patterns, rotas, compressed hours, the lot. And I guess some businesses have found their way, but some are still, although maybe how far away from the pandemic, we're still where they're still trying to find what works best for the business as well.
And is it that, I mean, how do you find that solution, I suppose? Is it a case that it's not a case that it's going to work for everybody, is it? You've got to try and find that individual solution for each of your members of staff, is that right?
Absolutely, it's very individual. For example, an employee might be happy with the Monday to Friday 9 to 5. They quite like that structure, they like that. They do not like having a 2-hour lunch break or compressing their hours into 4 days, etc. They maybe need the structure. Other people are craving for that increased lunch hour, so that they can go away and maybe walk their dog or do exercise, get a shower and then come back. But at the moment, work is what you do. Okay. Work is no longer the location.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Work is what you do, whether that is working flexibly in a coffee shop, whether that is working at home, whether that is working in an office, whether that is working while travelling. Right. Work now is what you do in the output, rather than the location and where you are.
So do you think some employers are struggling with that? Is that, like you said, it's not, work isn't where you are, it's what you do. Is that have you finding that as a bit of a battle for some employers, just to grasp that concept?
Absolutely, because it's all so different for everyone. Yeah. So we've got to think about customers and client demand. We've got to also think about maximising productivity. Yeah. So we need to think about actually looking on an individual basis, or do we just say 3 days a week in the office, 2 days from home for everyone, or do we go a step further and we tailor that? But all of that throws up issues.
It does, doesn't it? I suppose if you say, right, everybody's 3 days and 2 days, what about productivity for some people who really can't do that with childcare, or
don't want to do that,
or don't want to do that,
don't want to work from home, want to be in the office full time, or those that want to be at home full time? So it's very much on an individual basis. But how does a business owner navigate through all of that? And
is that, I mean, are you guys helping a lot of companies with that, just to understand how to navigate it? I mean, how How do you work that out?
Absolutely. And then we throw into, we'll get flexible working right, and then we want to move to the 4-day working week, for example. So how do we help? So it's looking and working with business owners to find out what are the issues, what are the demands, and how do we fit pieces of the jigsaw, but also on an individual basis in terms of what floats their boat, what do they need, and fitting all the jigsaw without impacting customers or clients.
Yeah. I suppose that's the thing you've always got to keep in mind, is that ultimately you're doing your job to provide a service or provide a product or whatever it is, so it has to have the end product, doesn't it?
Absolutely, but happy employees are your best employees. Well, so whether that's, and we're in a very bizarre time of maybe the business is not able to give pay rises or bonuses, but actually when people are looking, certainly as well, applying for jobs, they'll look at is flexible working an opportunity, and that may pay more than any other benefit or any salary increase as well.
So that kind of, you've touched on this anyway, but that takes us on to what are the benefits of this? I mean, obviously we've gone from a scenario where everybody's sitting in the office on a regular basis to this now. Productivity is obviously key, but what are the other benefits? Why are companies saying, look, this is going to work for us?
People are very much, maybe during COVID times, they assess their life and their personal time is much more protected than ever. Okay. Yeah. So actually, you're going to have mentally stimulated employees if they can maybe take that 2 hours off in the afternoon. That's maybe good for them to go and take their dog a walk. We'll get away from burnout as well in a lot of organisations as well. Okay. And it's just having that option of getting up, and is today an office day? Is it a home working day? Can I log off because of childcare issues or those moments of child school activities? Can we make sure that we're being a parent and a good worker as well, and maybe get out to that, but then I'll just log on at night time and that suits. So it's all about employee engagement and keeping everybody happy, but also meeting the business needs as well. So you're going to have profitability is going to be better, employee engagement is going to be better, and it's just going that step further. Okay.
So, playing devil's advocate, what's the other side? What are the companies that are saying to you, look, flexible working is just not going to work for us? What are they saying? What's the cross and the other side of that?
Yeah, if I don't see you, you're not working.
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
If
we're still. If I can't see you, then you're not working. Yeah. So I guess your whole communication strategy has to be looked at. How are you keeping in touch? Also, if you have someone physically in the office, are they burnt out? Are they mentally okay? You can't really see that at home maybe. You cannot see that if you're not working the same shift pattern with them. So your duty of care. Is someone logging on at 3 a.m? Do you know that? If you're in an office or you have prescribed start and finish times, you can see that. But I guess there has to be, and it's okay, get the controls in place so that we can see who's logging on at what time. We can make sure productivity's been done. There is the fear of flexible working. It's out of my control. I don't have the same control as a business owner. But actually, if you recruit the right people and you trust them, they'll flourish in that environment.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Trust. I think this is, we talked about this before, but is that the issue here? It's not necessarily whether flexible working will work or not. It's whether you trust your employees and have you got the right team in place, to work to deliver on that.
Yeah,
is that
absolutely.
The case?
And they maybe have bitten in the past with people that have maybe taken the mickey out of things or have had productivity or disciplines have been impacted by those working flexibly. It's similar to the whole dress down day. Some businesses don't like dress down because they feel a change of clothes is a change of mindset, dynamics and mindset, and actually do we get the most out of people? But we look at the countries that dress down days is normal. We look at business dress now. Again, that's changed. So it's trusting that you have the right team. Okay. Yeah.
And I suppose, are there companies now that are really getting this right? I mean, we've been in this now for a couple of years, and I've chatted to a few people and they said, I'm not sure we're quite getting it right. Do you think we are, or do you think we've got a long way to go to get this right, to get this optimal working scenario where everybody feels comfortable?
We've still got a way, I think. We're getting there, but it's not just we turn the switch on for flexible working and then we turn it off again. It's a complete, we need to keep reviewing this. By every lever and every starter that comes on, then how do they fit into the jigsaw and how do we make sure that we're not impacting our customers and clients as well? So and then what is the next thing? Where do we go from here? So it's not, for me, it's a slow trickle, and it's making sure that we stay on the route and we stay on the train. It doesn't just start and finish, we just keep adapting.
And that's the thing, I suppose that was my next question, is like what's next? Like, where do we go next with this? You know, obviously you mentioned the changes in the law and so on, and these things are going to keep coming. And as we adapt and we change and we develop, these things will ultimately change again. So what do you think's next? What's coming next with flexible working?
Oh, yeah, so what work is what you do, not the location, but work will also now be when you do it.
Right.
So will there be core hours? Will those hours go on? And I mean, that might work for some businesses, it might not be so great. But actually, some creative people, they are best placed to work at 11 o'clock at night, for example, till 3 in the morning. Now, we also have a duty of care, and that's really important. So that worries us as well. But thinking about work, location, hours, the next thing that will come will be about the working hours, the 9 to 5. We've dropped the office, but we're now looking at the hours that people work, but actually think of the benefits that we can get. Imagine every employee in your business was working at their peak time.
Yeah. I suppose that's I said scary there, but maybe it's not scary. Maybe it is just a case of trusting your employees and accepting that, as you say, a creative maybe works best at 11 o'clock at night, knowing that they've had a couple of hours at lunch to go and do their run or whatever it might be. So it's finding that, but I know for some employers that will be that's a big step, isn't it, to say, I mean, what do you do legally with contracts if you don't have set hours? How do you manage that?
Absolutely. How do we make sure that people are not exceeding in terms of working hours? How are we making sure that people aren't burning out? How are we making sure that we've got enough hours between shifts? All of the legal responsibilities that we have. So there has to be massive controls in the background to make sure that we can still keep an eye on employees and making sure what hours they are actually doing.
And that duty of care, that was an interesting point you touched on there. Where does that, I mean, that must be a bit of a minefield, because somebody's working at 3 in the morning because that just works with their schedule, but then how do you know if that's working effectively, or if that is their poor productivity and they're actually just stressed out and they're continuing to work at 3 because I need to finish that project? How do we find that balance?
Yeah, and that's not flexible working, isn't it?
No.
Because they've had their flexible working maybe throughout their day, but they're logging on in the evening to catch up with it. It's all about knowing your team.
That's interesting.
Yeah, making sure that they can come and say, listen, I'm really burnt out. I've had so much on this now. I was up to 3 o'clock in the morning. Right, we need to stop this and have a look. And is it a resource issue? Is it a productivity? Is it a capability issue? Is it the wrong person in the seat for the job? Lots to think about. But for me, that's not maybe flexible working. That's managing your team. Managing your team,
yeah. So that's really interesting. So what is it that the employers can legally expect of their employees when they're working from home or flexibly working?
Good question. What minefield to ask? How long have we got? How long have we got?
A couple of minutes.
I guess it's more in terms of what's expected from the employer to make sure that they are working within their duty of care, to make sure that they are not exceeding any working time regulations, to make sure that they are risk assessing those that are at home working through health and safety, which is not my bag.
I better ask you questions about that.
But go back to your question again.
I suppose, what is it that we're wanting? What do we legally? What can we legally expect from people in terms of the employers? Where does the responsibility lie? You mentioned it actually. Things like risk assessing the house. You know, providing the right kit, the right things, the right seats, the right desks.
Absolutely.
Are they legally bound to provide that? Is that part of the new laws that might come in? Maybe
not to provide those items, but to make sure that they are equipped to do their work at home.
And risk assess, is there a risk assessment level? I know health and safety is not your bag.
No, absolutely. From their environment to their equipment to all of that, which was quite interesting because I'd love to know during COVID how many organisations were able to do that, because it was business survival mode. It was quickly get home, here's a laptop, have you got a desk, we heard some kind of horrific stories of people working in bedrooms, so they were eating, sleeping, working in a bedroom, and how is that adapted now? But I guess that hopefully won't be the case now. Environments will be a bit better for working. I
suppose it's a real challenge for you. There's so many different households, so many different ways of working, and people are comfortable in their own environment which might not be exactly what you would expect at work, you know, so there's a wee bit of, not lack of control, but I suppose finding a way to control that, isn't it? So you can be comfortable knowing that people are working from home. And then there's that duty of care, making sure that they're healthy and fit. Excuse me. So yeah, I suppose it's just understanding that. Where does that lie?
And also from an employee's perspective, they also have a duty to keep in touch with their employer, to still be logging on at the times that they are meant to be working, to still, and that's the bit that's been a wee bit more tricky maybe, where the communication needs to be very much two-way. So although they're at home, it doesn't matter. There's still as much communication. That's the challenge. Still as much communication as there would be in an office. It might have to adapt and be a bit different, or maybe be a wee bit more digital. But there still has to be the communication both ways, or it's never going to work.
Okay. So flexible working, is it here to stay, or do you think we're going to revert back to everybody in the office? Come on, get back in.
It's a difficult one. Some people have, some people are what's next. Yeah. So it is really, really difficult because each business needs to do its own thing and assess its own thing. It would be great to see we moved through flexible working probably 10 years more in the future. So it would be lovely. I guess we'll not be going at that pace, but it will be what next for a lot of businesses and taking it to the next step. Others might revert back because it's maybe not working, or they've not quite got it, or they've not got the right people in place, so they have to revert back.
Just keep evolving, keep developing with that.
Keep it going, absolutely. Work is what you do, not where you work. So I guess
that's the takeaway.
What does that mean?
Yeah, perfect. So Natalie, flexible working, what are our kind of top 3 takeaways from that chat?
Treat everyone as an individual.
Yeah.
Sometimes, obviously, a business must say, right, everyone in the office for 3 days, etc. But you're going to get the most out of people by treating them as an individual. Find out what they need, what floats their boat, how they work best, and try and adapt. That is a big task. Okay. I appreciate that. That is a really big task, but that's how we're working with some of our clients on that. Second top tip would be keep updated. It is forever moving. The changes are looming. The changes have been concluded, but haven't yet been brought into effect.
So they're not implemented yet?
Right. Not yet. Watch this space for 2023. There will be at some point, and then it will become that day one right. Okay. And two requests, not a right, remember, 2 requests in the 12 months, and there is a 3-month period at the moment for someone's request from start to finish, including an appeal. That will go down to 2 months now. So an employer will have the duty
to reply in 2 months.
to respond and to get something in place within 2 months.
Okay.
So that's another change, and this will be coming at some point when we're ready to go, but just be ready. So be mindful of that, have a look at your policy and make sure that's adapted for these changes as well. And our top tip number 3 is just to bear in mind that the best thing, work is what you do, it's not the location anymore.
I like that. Good, thank you.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast and leave us a 5-star review.
And if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. And if there are any topics you'd like us to discuss, just get in touch.